This is what it looks like when you come in the main entrance at Cypress Cove, Fort Myers, Florida. Off to the right there is the concierge desk. Doubles as the welcoming center. And as you come around the corner, on any given day, every day, you'll be greeted by a lovely orchid. I mean, look at that. Beautiful exotic orchid. And every time there's an explanation of what it is that you're looking at. The pink doll orchid. Long explanation signed by Bill McSharry. Who's this Bill McSharry guy? You're going to meet him. Good morning, Bill.
Morning, Robert.
Yeah.
John.
I was setting up the camera just a few minutes ago, and somebody came up and she said, "Oh, you're going to record today?" And I said, "Yeah, Bill McSharry." And she said, "You know what we call him, don't you?" And I said, "The Orchid Man." She said, "No, the orchid guru." She said, "He knows everything there is about orchids."
A lot of people have that impression. And I'll admit I know quite a lot, but I learned it all when I was living in Port Charlotte, and I joined the Charlotte County Orchid Society. And believe me, there were some people there that knew a whole lot more than I know after 12 years ago into those meetings.
Okay, is that when it was, 12 years ago when you?
Well, I started, we moved here in the early 2000s, and that is to Port Charlotte, and we moved to Cypress Cove 12 years later. So I spent most of that time going to monthly meetings at the Charlotte County Orchid Society.
That's great. We're going to see your garden. You're going to take us out to our garden, and I'll tell you, wait for that because you'll be surprised how small it is.
Yeah.
You know, you're putting out orchids on a regular basis without skipping a beat. As far as I know, they're always there.
They're always there, but they're the ones that are putting out the flowers. I'm just feeding them, watering them, repotting them.
Okay. Well, what are we looking at here?
This is a Cattleya type of orchid. It's one of the main groups, or it is a representative of one of the main groups, which is the Cattleya, called the Cattleya Alliance. And you may recognize it as typical of the orchids that are sold as corsages. It's got a very prominent lip, and they're widely grown, many hybrids, and so that's the story of this one. This one is called Pink Doll. It's unusual for many reasons. One of them is that it's a very large flower. It's also scented. There are not many orchids that have a scent. And it's a hybrid of 4 different genuses or genera. Most orchids that are hybrids of 2 different genera, and maybe 3, but this is the only one I know of that has 4. So it's kind of a spectacular example.
And you always put out an explanation, which I love.
A lot of people tell me that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of an information junkie. I have a scientific background, although I've been growing plants since I was a little kid. I always enjoyed doing that. So I like to get the information for my own satisfaction, and I like to share the information, just like I'm sharing the orchids.
So as long as we're talking about you, tell us about a little bit about you and what was your career? What was your job?
I have a bachelor's degree in pharmacy. I got that when it was a 4-year program from Fordham University. I took ROTC in college, went back, went in the Army after that for 2 years, and then went back to Fordham for graduate school. I have a PhD in analytical chemistry, and that was my career.
Okay. What companies were you working with?
I worked for Huff and LaRoche, which most people know as by their 2 big products, Librium and Valium, major tranquilizers. And for half of my career, and then I worked for Engelhard Corporation, which is in a variety of businesses.
So that explains your analytical.
Yes,
yeah.
very much.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about orchids before we move to the garden?
People have the impression that they're very delicate and hard to raise. They're hard to raise because their requirements are different from most of the plants that people grow. There are terrestrial orchids, but most of them grow in trees or even attached to rocks. So therefore, their roots are exposed all the time, and most of them are not harmed by drying out. In fact, some of them will not bloom unless they dry out, and that's typical of cattleyas, for one. So they're also in the trees exposed to high winds and anything else that may come along. So they're pretty hardy in that sense, but if like any plant, if they're not given the right conditions, they don't grow well.
Well, let's go see the garden.
Very good.
So Bill, if a resident, like some of the newer residents, there's so many of these raised gardens, if somebody wants to do one or share one, or how do they arrange that?
If it's a free garden bed, you can sign up and it's yours.
Now, did you request this certain spot because of maybe a little more shade?
Well, that wasn't my original intention. I requested it because I knew I was going to put up the trellis, and I figured if I put it in the middle, I'm blocking some of the view.
Right.
So I thought it would be better over in the corner like this.
So you're basically starting things in individual pots.
They're all in individual pots. That you're right here is called a pickle cactus because it's thought to look like pickles. That, of course, is amaryllis. This is an aloe.
Oh yeah, I've never seen one that small.
Oh yeah, they come in all different sizes. Now from this side, you can see some of the orchids. This is a phalaenopsis. That's called a venation pattern. It shows the veins in the petals.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have another aloe, and the one that you have the camera on now is a bromeliad.
Wow, that is
and
strange.
It has those leaves, the sinuous leaves, turn red, and then the flowers come out on the ends. It has finished blooming in maybe a month or two. You can see what remains of the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
This little thing is called baby's toes. It normally has a flat spot on top that looks like a toenail.
This is a busy looking.
Yeah, that's an aloe. So is the one next to it, this little one. That's a jade plant, and the one next to it is a jade plant. Okay, so this is, now the plants in the baskets are mainly phalaenopsis. This one in back, that's called it's a particular name for the pattern, and I can't think of it at the moment. It's kind of a random pattern. Oh, here's an interesting one. This is it's commonly called a spider orchid, and it still has all the same petals, stamens, and lip as all the other orchids, but they're a much different shape.
I've never seen that one before.
No, that's not common. But
yeah, it like this guy here just looks so much exactly like a spider.
Yeah. But that's what people find fascinating about what I put on the front desk.
Yeah.
They never saw orchids like that.
So are you purposely having the variety that you'll have something in bloom almost all the time? Something?
Well, it's pretty much worked out that way.
These are beautiful.
Right,
Bill.
yeah, that's another Phalaenopsis, and there's another veination pattern showing the veins
Yeah,
with a yellow background instead of white.
beautiful.
That one's unusual too. There's not too many orchids that are solid red.
You ever give your plants names, or you go with what they were given?
No, I go with what they were given. Many of them I got from other residents who buy Phalaenopsis in the stores, and once they're done blooming, they don't want them anymore, so they give them to me. And I put them out here, and in fact, that's where I got these things. Oh, Harlequin, that's the name for that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think the court jester was a Harlequin.
So Bill, anybody else, any other residents interested in orchids? I mean, that like offer to help or do help?
Not so much help as trade cuttings. There's another trellis over there that someone else has orchids in. They copied that from mine after they moved in. There's some people in the villas have orchids in their trees, and some people on the first floor do it that way too. So if you walk around, you'll see some of them blooming.
I heard a rather cute story about when you lived in Port Charlotte, the first orchid show that you showed in.
Oh yeah.
I want to hear your version of the story.
Okay. Well, it was not too long after I started raising orchids.
What year are we talking?
2002 or 3, I guess.
Yeah.
And the Charlotte County Orchid Society used to get into local orchid shows. Like in Sarasota, they had one. I believe there was one. I want to say Naples, but I'm not sure. Anyway, a few of them in the year. So I brought the orchid to the society, and they put it in the show. And when I got it back, it had a blue ribbon on it, and it just about bowled me over.
That's got to be a spark, a shot in the arm to say, oh yeah,
absolutely.
let's keep doing
I
this.
really became addicted to putting them in shows, and I got a number of ribbons. In fact, some years back, they were looking for a display to put in one of the glass cases we have inside, and I gave them my orchid ribbons, and they made a pretty impressive display.
Yeah.
Now I find that the meetings run too late, and I'm driving home in the dark, and I don't really feel like doing that. So I haven't been getting into any more shows.
But you show them to us.
Yes, I show them on the front desk, and I really enjoy the nice comments that the people make and thank me for putting them there. I appreciate that, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed spending time with you today, and I've had to laugh or at least smile real big as we're walking by people. Everybody says, hey, I got a question about an orchid. Hey, really like the orchid you just put out. Hey. So they know who you are.
No, they do. Well, that's because I put my name on it. I am not that much of a shrinking violet that I won't.
Thank you, Bill McSharry.
You're welcome.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I will as long as I can.